Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. My name is Heather Crimson, and I am here with my fabulous co host, Vanessa Baldwin. And today we have a seasonal episode for you. We are going to talk about nutrition with a highlight on the winter aspect, right, Vanessa?
Yeah, we're going to talk about diet and like how do we know the most optimal diet? Because I think this can be like a confusing question. You're like, well, what diet should I do? I know we've chatted about this before in one of our earlier episodes, but we haven't talked about it in a while. So I thought it'd be fun to chat about it again. And people always like, what should I do? Should I do keto? Should I do carnivore? Should I do paleo? Should I do autoimmune? Should blah, 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 all these like different diets, right? And honestly, I really think that we make it more difficult. And nutrition can be really simple and easy. As actually, when I was thinking about this podcast episode, it made me think of what you said on Meredith's podcast. Like, it gets to be easy. And that's how I feel like eating this way makes me feel like it's easy. It's like so easy. And I love easy, right? So,
Yes.
like, when people ask, like, what is the most optimal diet? I always say, well, that depends on where do you live? What season is it? And how's your metabolism? Like, those would be like the three things that I would want to know about. Like, are you metabolically flexible? So that's not what a lot of people think of first when they hear about, well, what should I eat? Where do I live? And what season is it? Like, that actually is important because whether or not we are going to be able to assimilate or absorb or handle certain foods depends on the season and where we're living at that time, right? So I'm excited to chat with you guys about this because I think it's such an integral part of a healing journey. And also, I feel like it makes what to eat so much easier. Like, you just take all, like, there's so much diet noise. And I'm like, I love to remove that and be like, you know, peppers are still growing in my garden. So that's something I'm going to eat.
Absolutely. That makes it easy. And how lovely that you have a garden. I just love that. Someday I want to do that. Because it makes it even easier and much more personal because it really is all about intimacy with our local environment. Where do you inhabit? What is your habitat? So the context is key, right? When we go to the grocery store, that's like an artificial phenomenon. That is modern day sort of, where we have commerce, where we're shipping things all over the world. I have to admit, as a foodie, it's kind of fun, but it's not necessarily in the best service to my mitochondria because they're literally reading the light code of the food that you eat and the environment that it was grown in. So the bigger the mismatch and discrepancy of the food you're eating, for example, if it's grown really far away from you, then the cumulative impact of the food you eat can be something that your mitochondria will begin to struggle with. And I don't want people to think like, oh my God, I can never have an orange if I live in, whatever, Wisconsin. It's really just about moderation. So I don't, because I know that there's a tendency, Vanessa, for people who are really hyper focused on diet, and especially if they like food, to start to get a little too, what's the word, anxious about it and maybe too rigid. And we're really not trying to move in that direction. We don't want any orthorexia happening. That
Oh, no, no,
actually really undermines the whole point in the first place because we're trying to bring more ease. We're trying to bring more energetic flow to your bodies and your energy systems of your bodies. So having comfort and ease with food is our goal here, not to start to obsess about it. But another reason I want to say that I'm really excited today to dive into this, everybody, is I am in the process of editing and it's already perfectly fine. It's just because I'm an English major, and I kind of like even make it more amazing. But Vanessa has actually created this really in-depth, I don't know how many pages, it's quite extensive and thorough, and it's just a really wonderful tool for you all to consider. She has an ebook. It's really more of a whole program. I would say you have a informational video that goes with it, and you have a whole ebook that's on ancestral nutrition.
yeah,
Yes?
yeah, it's called Ancestrally and Seasonally Nourished. And thank you so much for being my editor. You're amazing. I love that. That is not my forte. It's not my best strong suit, so I really appreciate it. But yeah, it's called Ancestrally and Seasonally Nourished. And I really wanted to create this ebook, and it has an ebook and a webinar. So you get like, I think the webinar is a like 2 hour webinar explaining to you how to implement a seasonal ancestral diet. And then you also get a ton of recipes as well there. I think I have like there's definitely over 100. And you can, know when to consume that recipe based on the season. So it tells you like, oh, I should eat this recipe in fall or whatever. Like, so that's pretty unique. I don't really think there's many recipe ebooks or recipe books that are doing that, like matching it to the season. So anyway, I wanted to do this because I feel like we need to learn how to nourish our bodies properly. And a lot of these diet, fad diets and whatnot, they're not actually doing that. Like they're short term solutions. And a lot of times, in my experience, they can cause more harm than good. And this, like, makes so much sense. And again, it's simple, it's easy, and it's something that you can use literally for life. Like, you can use this plan forever. It's a forever plan. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to do this for like 6 months and then I'm going to go to the carnivore diet. Like, no, no, no. Like, it's easy, simple, use it for life. So I'm excited for people to learn about it and have this lens of eating with the seasons and eating, the food that's grown in your local environment, which will help with gut diversity and gut microbiome diversity, and will also align your body to the natural, like, circannual rhythms. It's really important for us to do that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and so everyone should go you have given such a gift because it's like a ton of information all broken down, super easy to digest and metabolize, speaking of nutrition, and very nourishing for you, Vanessa's work, your work as Vanessa, and it's very reasonably priced for I'm like, wow. So I highly recommend you head over to brightlightwellnesscoach.com. Do I have your website right?
You got it. brightlightwellnesscoach.com.
Yeah, and check out her offering, everybody. So I just had a little image pop up or words from my grandfather, Vanessa, as we were talking about local. Things have changed so much over the last 100, years. Because I remember him always talking, he was super poor, like one of 12. Like, dang. And they didn't have a lot. So they would forage a lot. They would literally go around and gather sourdough. I remember him always talking about sourdough. They would literally eat the animals that are running around. And I bought this vintage meat cookbook at some Habitat for Humanity thrift store the other day. And there's a recipe for squirrel. It has squirrel in it. And I thought, oh my God, like we would balk at that. We'd be like, ugh. But people literally who didn't have means would eat whatever the hell was available around them. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
live in a very luxury focused world where we can just literally go out and buy anything, olive oil from Italy, blah, blah, blah. But so we're not necessarily recommending, go into some sort of scarcity mode, but what we are recommending is to think about abundance locally, right? And try to temper the stuff that's like in the summer, it's better. Like you can eat all the things that grow in summer. What is available at the farmers market? That's your easiest rule of thumb. If it's at the farmers markets, if you have one locally, hopefully, or your neighbors grow stuff, that's what you're going to be eating the bulk of. And in the winter, there's going to be fewer types of carbohydrates because they don't grow when there's no sun. That's sort of the guiding principle here. The foods that grow near the equator year round have a lot more deuterium in them, which is a heavy hydrogen, right? So if you eat that without the light that you're getting in the summer to help process the deuterium, it depletes your deuterium, you're going to gum up your energy production, the ATP synthase, right? ATPase. And so that's why this offering that Vanessa has is so helpful, is because it's going to support you from the cellular level outward. So we want to get the healing and the diet to be the most nourishing and supportive from the deepest part, right?
Yeah, so many things to comment on there that you just said. Is A number one is when humans ate a local, seasonal, ancestral diet, we didn't have chronic disease. Now, of course, that's not all of the factors at play here. There are other things environmentally that have changed. We speak about that all the time, from the lighting, from the non-native EMFs, from all the suppressive medications we take, right? These are all other factors environmentally that are causing disease. But when humans ate a local, seasonal, ancestral diet, because that was their only option, like there wasn't another choice, because that's what was in season, is what they had no choice but to eat, because they only could eat what grew right outside their door or their neighbor grew. So that's what people ate for millennia. And food stores are a modern convenience. And we kind of break all of nature's laws by saying, okay, I can eat whatever I want whenever I want it. And it's fun, you're right, but it also does cause an issue to our mitochondria, because, like you said before, food is energy, but it's also information. And that if that information is different from the light signaling that you're getting, this causes metabolic issues. It causes hormonal dysfunction. It causes mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular chaos. And, especially if you're dealing with like any kind of chronic inflammation or even weight gain or, hormone or metabolic issues, you really kind of want to more adhere to this kind of seasonal local diet, because that is going to greatly reduce inflammation in your body. And so many things to say about deuterium. I think the deuterium is really the reason why this matters the most, because deuterium, like you said, is this heavy hydrogen, and that hydrogen carries electrons, so that's coming into our electron transport chain, but it's 2 times larger and 2 times denser. So when it gets into the electron transport chain in the mitochondria, it slows it down and kind of clogs it up. Carrie Bennett said it beautifully: trying to shove 2 basketballs through 1 hoop at the same time, it doesn't work. And then you have less, your mitochondria works slower, and you have less cellular energy, right? So this adds to inflammation, messes with enzymes, increases your chance of cancer, autoimmunity, Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, autism, really neurological disorders. ATP production is reduced, increased sensitivity to non-native EMFs, and causes hormone imbalances. The best way to reduce deuterium is to get enough sunlight on your skin, number one, because that's how we deplete it, but also eating a local, seasonal, organic diet, because you will naturally deplete it in the diet easily. Because when you see, the thing is, like, we're not going to see deuterium on food labels. Like, it's not like something you can look up. Like, you can't find that, right? But it's high in these like sugary, watery fruits and grains and processed and packaged foods, and also tap water, seed oils, vegetable oils, right? And even in supplements, especially because of the capsules that they're in, right? So you're going to get a lot of deuterium from those places. Now, in the summertime, if you're eating your watermelon or your cucumber that's high in deuterium, but you're outside in sunlight depleting it, nature's balancing that out. It's fine. If you live at the equator and you're eating a lot of tropical fruits, it's fine because you're outside sweating in the sunlight, removing it. But if you continue to eat high deuterium foods in the wintertime, now you've got a problem, because you're not depleting it through winter, and you were kind of clogging up your mitochondria. And think about it, us humans, many of us kind of live in that never-ending summer where we're always eating all of the things all year round and not really ever depleting deuterium. And then, of course, that's going to slow down our mitochondria to add to aging.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all about being able to harmonize with the rhythms that are going on around you. So
Yeah.
that's the guiding principle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which includes, again, the local, seasonal in general. I think about, would this have been a food that my grandparents could have grown at this time of year and or made? So when you
Yeah.
think vegetable oils, we can't make those. We really can't. I mean, maybe some of them, I don't know, sunflower, I don't know, but still, it's really hard to do. So we want to avoid things that are highly processed because they're super high in deuterium. And it doesn't mean you have to make all your own food. Like, very few people can pull that off. There are some amazing souls who do that. I'm not one of them. But we're really just talking about the general overarching guiding principles that Vanessa's mentioning is what we want to adhere to. And if the bulk of your diet, right? Because it's like, okay, I wanted to have some cinnamon tea in the winter. That's not seasonal local, but you know what I mean? You
But I
can,
think that's okay. I think it's all about, like, I think for most people, they are eating, they're not considering this. Like, most people are just eating fruits and veggies all year round. They don't think
like,
about it in the winter that
mangoes
that's
year
something.
round, pineapple
Yeah,
year round.
bananas, yeah, all the things, papayas, pineapple, grapes, it doesn't really matter. Oh, you know what I wanted to say, Heather? I want to bring this up in the conversation because I was listening to Paul Saladino's podcast, and he had Casey Means on, and they were talking about kind of like seasonal local eating. And I was like, my ears really perked up. I was like, because she was saying how, she gets a blood sugar crash or dysregulation from eating grapes. And I was like, and then Paul said, well, I wonder if you would have that same blood glucose like dysregulation if it was local and seasonal, like if it was something that you were eating like in that time when it grew. And I'm like, yes, I think I like yelled, like I was like on a walk, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we're saying, because that actually, it does make a difference. Like, you're going to have a different glucose response if you eat a mango in the wintertime in New York versus a mango at the equator. If you're eating it at the
Because the
equator,
sun helps you process sugars. The sun helps deplete glucose. So,
and deuterium, because and the deuterium and the glucose are similar because the deuterium is in the sugary, watery fruits, right? So you have to like that's a connection to make. But go ahead. Yes.
wait, does this mean he's now on board with seasonal and local and he's talking about it or
He
what?
was like kind of talking about it. And he even said, he's like, well, I'm outside. I'm eating all local and seasonal fruits. I'm like, yes, you are. That's why you can eat all those foods. If I ate all those foods in New York, that would be a problem. I would definitely gain weight. Like it doesn't work. But because you are outside surfing under sunlight, grounded all day long in the sunlight, depleting all the deuterium, you're not going to slow down your mitochondria. It's going to work beautifully. So I think he's making some connections. And I was like, yes, because you can't really talk just about like, it's not like everybody can't follow the same blanket diet, right? That's like, doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, everybody eat these foods because they're non-toxic. No, where do you live and what season is it is the number one question that we need to know.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah,
let's talk a
yeah.
little bit about how you, in particular, Vanessa, are adjusting your diet, your nutrition based on where you live in Long Island, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay to mention? Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fine. I don't
and
care.
how you are, like, what are you eating now? How are you shifting?
Yeah. So I'm eating what grows, like what can actually grow. And unbelievably, we've had this like unseasonably warm November. So it's even though the UV index is below 5, I'm still growing peppers and basil. I got peppers and basil still growing. I'm like, all right, I'll take it. So I,
Nice.
I eat what's ever growing in my local environment. And I go, I don't, we unfortunately, would it be beautiful if we had a lot of farmers markets? We don't really have a lot of that. So I buy most, I know, isn't that sad? Yeah,
Yeah.
in the summertime you can get some more, but
Oh,
not this time of year. You're not going to get a lot of that. So basically what I do is I buy a lot of my food from the farm that I like because I know that they're seasonal local produce and I know that they're glyphosate free and all that, whatever. So I buy from Dutch Meadows Farms a lot of my food. But
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm eating.
also check out Dutch Meadows Farms, you guys, because we're talking highest quality. Of course,
Oh
they're
yeah,
more northerly. They're so if you're in the northern hemisphere, I mean north,
Northeast. Northeast.
yeah, if you're in that region, I would highly recommend them. And then also using Vanessa's discount code. I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking like that's the kind of food quality that I really, really appreciate. You
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, so they right now what's in season because it's fall, it's pumpkins, it's squashes, it's apples, it's pears. It's not a lot of foods, like but it's really enjoyable and really fun. Like I love playing around with food. I actually really enjoy eating with the seasons and my body like naturally craves what's in season. Like it's just very interesting when you start aligning your circadian biology, it just happens. Like I'm like as soon as the shift started coming, I'm like, ooh, I don't want a salad. I don't want fruit. Like, I don't want berries. I don't want a water. Like, it all sounds gross to me. And oh, I want a squash, like homemade butternut squash soup, which is delicious. I had some yesterday. And I want like these like stews and roasts and like all that fun stuff. Like, I want to make pumpkin pancakes. I made a pumpkin cheesecake. Like, I want those kinds of
what do you
foods this
use
time
for
of year.
flour in the pumpkin pancakes to make
Oh,
them?
I don't use any flour.
Oh, you
I
just
don't.
use pumpkin. Oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
pumpkin. I that one is pumpkin cheesecake and eggs, I believe, and then some other things. I can't
Go
remember,
find
but no.
these recipes in Vanessa's ebook, guys.
And a lot of my recipes are gluten free because I am still gluten free. I've been gluten free for like 2 years and I haven't messed with it. And I don't know that I will because I don't really need it. Like, so the one thing I feel like my ebook is missing is a good sourdough bread, but that's because I don't cook it and I don't bake it. And if I
They
baked it,
find
then
that
I
they can find that in a million places. So
yeah, it does. That's the one thing. But I do have a good flourless bread, which seems to be like a super hit, and I've been loving. So you can check that out. But yeah, I don't know. I love eating with the seasons. Like I get super excited and I feel very aligned to it. And like as the winter gets into more deeper winter, like yeah, I'm gonna lean on my root veggies and my squashes and things like that. But there's a little bit of time in the like part of winter where it's not super super carnivore, but there's not a lot of produce. Like it really nothing grows here in the winter. It gets to that point where nothing grows.
here,
But
like I'm in the desert, and there's not a lot. The farmers market produce section dwindles down very small, right? And truly, like
Mhm.
I don't know how much stuff really grows here in the desert. They have to try like a lot of things to get stuff to grow as far as the variety. So it's pretty much your basics. Like we got carrots, there's going to be probably some rutabagas,
Yeah,
parsnips.
rutabagas, yeah,
These are
parsnips.
the rutabagas and parsnips used to be staples, you guys. Now I know they're an acquired taste for modern, like some of us, in
I
the,
love those.
I
People don't
know,
like
but
those? Oh,
people
you don't like them, right? You don't like parsnips?
don't mind them. Parsnips are a little bit like, but this is what people used to eat a lot of because they're very
I
hearty.
I just went out to a we went out to a restaurant in my for my mom's birthday, and it was a local seasonal restaurant, and they had duck with parsnip puree and butternut squash puree, and it was delicious. And I actually happen to love the taste of parsnips. Maybe I'm just a little bit odd, but I like that kind of stuff. And you can make like turnips and parsnips make really good, like almost like a mashed potato. In cauliflower, I make a cauliflower mash too, which cauliflower and broccoli, like I'm kind of like, are those really real, like ancestral foods? Not really, but I mean, I eat them, so whatever.
Well, at this point, I mean, what are you going to do? It's like that's
Yeah, they work though. They're a low deuterium food for the winter.
so in the
Yeah.
winter we can be really safe with having a little more meat, so long braised meat. So you use the cuts that have more gelatin, or what's the word I'm
Mhm.
looking for? You know what I mean?
Gelatinous, more gelatinous
And then you braise them and they become
fat. Hmm.
unctuous and delicious, and you put all your veggies around it. That's something that at least once a week would be lovely to have. And more roasted veggies, that you're gonna have more brassicas, right? More of the root vegetables. There are some winter fruits if you tolerate them, like persimmons. And but the thing is the persimmons can get awfully sweet. So if you have issues with sugar, I would say the persimmons might be too sweet for some people. And then some people like quince, but you got to add so much sugar. It's not really practical if you're trying to
I don't
like.
even know what those are because they probably don't grow in my area. So I've never even heard of these. I think you've told me this before, but if they don't grow in my area, then I'm not aware of it, I guess, right?
They are very common winter fruits. And then you have the pears. Now you have
Yes.
apples coming into
Yes.
storage season for the recent crop of apples that are super fun to make baked apples.
Yeah.
Those things are really, really fun. So,
Yeah, I lean on a lot of like right now pears and apples are like staples for me right now. And if you cook them, you actually lowering the glycemic index so they will not raise your blood sugar as much or cause like blood sugar issues or spikes or any issues like that. So cooking them is a really good tip. I have a good roasted pears recipe in my ebook as well.
but you do.
Um, yeah, and I love cooked apples. I love apples. And the cool thing about it too that I want to mention is that I will keep updating it, which is kind of fun because I if I like to have recipes in my ebook, even for me, like I was at the food store the other day and I was like, oh, what else do I need for the cheesecake? And I couldn't remember. And I just pulled up the recipe ebook because it's like on my Google Slides on my phone because I had forgotten my notes of what I needed. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what I need. Like, because I couldn't remember like I needed certain nuts for the crust and stuff like that. I just pull it up. So I use it all the time. Like I literally use it my own recipe ebook like so often. So
Perfect.
it's nice for me to like if I make another recipe to add it so then I have it so like all my stuff is organized, right? So I'm going to keep adding new recipes so you will get those updates because it's on a Google slide, so all you have to do is hit the little like circle button, the little arrow button, and it'll update, so when I add a new recipe you will get it. So I think that's kind of cool about having like an ebook recipe ebook because it's like when you buy a regular cookbook, like you're not going to get any updates. That's it, it's done.
Right.
Now here you're going to get updates, which is kind of cool. So
Very
yeah.
cool.
Mm.
Let's talk a little bit about microbiome and how the seasons affect that more than what you're actually eating.
Yeah. 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 So I think the light is what really diversifies the gut microbiome the most. So that's what's so important. So, like in the summertime, we get this strong stimulus of ultraviolet B, like UVB light, right? And this actually diversifies our gut microbiome. And as long as we're outside, exposing our stomach, exposing our skin, because that light does need to be, in direct contact with our skin for things to happen. And through the gut skin access, this actually stimulates our body to make different beneficial bacteria to use, absorb, and digest simple sugars, right? And that actually is why we are better able to tolerate simple sugars in the summer versus in the winter. So, like, again, if I ate that watermelon in the summertime, I'm going to digest and absorb that pretty well. I'm going to tolerate it well. I shouldn't really have a huge glucose spike. I mean, normal, like a normal glucose spike that we should get, but nothing crazy. Although if I ate it in the wintertime, my body wouldn't really absorb and assimilate them as well. And I would have more challenges. Like my gut microbiome is not expecting it. Our gut microbiome is expecting more things that are, the more hardier kind of complex carbohydrates in the wintertime. And in the summertime, they're expecting more simple sugars and simple carbohydrates. And the gut microbiome shifts with the seasons and the lights that is entering our eyes and touching our skin. And not a lot of people talk about that, but it's really important to realize that your gut microbiome is not the same in the winter as it is in the summer. And
Remember
neither is your blood sugar or your cortisol response,
right,
right?
there's seasonal
Because
steps. Yes, everything is tailored to the responding to the light frequencies. Remember that study somebody did? They went to Africa and they got one, they were one of these more sort of remote tribes, and they measured all of their microbiome flora, and then they said, okay, that's the baseline. And then they started feeding them crap food.
yes, yes.
Their flora did not change because it was actually the flora that was created from the light code. It wasn't
Right.
necessarily food doesn't have a major impact. It's the light that will tailor your microbiome diversity.
But they were in strong UVB light,
Yeah.
and they were grounded and connected to nature very much. So that's why the food didn't affect them as much. But I'm of the opinion
What?
that food does matter, like
Absolutely.
hugely. Yeah. Like so I like some people will look at that study and be like, "Oh, it's all about the light." But you have to remember how connected those people were and how much strong UVB light they had, right? So they and less, and you know what else? Less suppressive therapies that they've had
Oh,
to
for
destroy
sure.
their gut microbiome, right? So for us, I think food really is important. I'm of the opinion that food really does matter, and we need to be putting like good nutrients in our body. And of course, I know Heather and I are both whole, real food all the time or majority of the time. And hopefully food that you're cooking and all that is really supportive. And in the wintertime, because we don't have as much strong UVB light, again, our mitochondria are not going to be as strong because of we're missing that stimulus. Our gut microbiome is not going to be as strong because we're missing that stimulus. So we have to be a little bit more diligent about what we're eating through winter, and in the summertime, we have a little bit more leniency, I would say, while we're eating.
Regarding the carbs and just overall quality of food.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about meal timing now. We have a shorter light window in the winter. So some
Yes.
people I know go from 3 meals a day to two. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, just
Mhm.
because I'm not hungry after I eat at two or three. I can't eat again. And it's getting dark here where I'm at. Gosh, like by 6, it seems like. So it seems awfully early. But so I'm not eating again and I'm fine because the satiety is good. And so I'm kind of doing like an informal intermittent fasting until the next morning. And then my schedule is pretty standard quantum biological protocol where I'll eat around within an hour of sunrise. So here that's about 7-ish right now. And then I'll eat again around 2, and then that's it. Like I'm not eating again. So
And how good is that for your leptin as well? Because we need to space out our meals, right? To have that leptin signaling actually work appropriately. But yeah, it's kind of similar to what I do too. I mean, I'm still kind of some days I have three, some days I have two. So it depends on the day. But my day is even shorter than yours because our light changes earlier. So by like 4:30, it's dark, like here. I
yeah,
mean, the sun is going down, and like in the heart of winter, it's like 3:30 some days. So it's a very long fast for me, that a longer intermittent fast that I get because I don't eat after the sunset. You don't want to do that because your gut microbiome is not going to repair overnight while sleeping. So I'm very big on that. And I feel good doing that. And I'm fine doing that, like having that long intermittent fast. I'm actually, what starts happening too, Heather, is I fall asleep so much earlier. So like, cause I'm eating earlier. So then I go to bed earlier. Like I was tired yesterday at like 7:30. I fell asleep literally at 8:15. It was like,
your circadian rhythm is so strong and optimized that
yeah.
it's like roaring and like, let's, it just like, boom, you're out. Right. But I would say that people who have a lot of gut issues and hormonal imbalance and different problems like that, that you really want to be really careful not to eat after dark. But if you literally can't sleep through the night and you're
Yes.
working on improving your metabolic flexibility, you can try, like, I recommend first doing something with a little bit of protein and fat in it. And then if that doesn't cut it, okay, maybe some complex carbs like a little bit of sweet potato until you can get your window wider and
Hmm.
your energy management systems are working better. That's how you can kind of slowly and gently work towards greater metabolic flexibility. Because not everyone can do what we're doing right now, Vanessa. You can do it really well. I'm okay.
You can do it.
Sometimes, honestly, I'm going to say this, it depends on your stress level. Like if you have a lot of inflammation and couple that with a lot of life stressor, excuse me, stressors, like if you have a chronically stressful, high conflict relationship, you're under a great amount of stress. Like, 'cause the
Mhm.
body is just like feeling constantly in sort of a war zone. So you may not have the best metabolic flexibility because it's an overall drain on your system, and you may need a little more in the way of complex carbs even after dark. Like, but don't eat too late. Don't eat too close to bed. Try to at least give an hour or two. But ideally, we want to work towards eating only when it's light out. So if you're kind of at the very end of when the sun's setting, okay, fine. But eating closer to bed, if you have a lot of gut issues, you're going to not sleep well because your body can't digest that effectively when the sun's down because your energy is going to other places, other processes in the body, and your digestion will be compromised.
Yeah, and also our glucose response is much different after the sun goes down as well. So there's a lot of factors here. And yes, I love what you said. Like we can't just go all in. Like if you're eating processed and packaged foods and you're snacking all the time, like you're eating a meal every hour, 2 hours, you're eating something, you eat before bed every night, you have to have a bedtime snack. Like, you can't just jump in and like do what we're recommending. You're gonna have to go a little slow because your body is not equipped for that yet. Like it's not trained for that yet. It's not going to just be able to go from 0 to 100. Like you have to slowly adapt, right? To allow for your metabolism to learn how to adjust, how to learn how to burn stored fat for fuel. That's what happens. Like when you're doing these 18-hour intermittent fasting, you're tapping into your stored body fat. We're supposed to lose weight in winter. Like that's actually what is supposed to happen. You're actually supposed to like gain a little weight in the summer and the fall because your body is like, that's the season of abundance. That's when we should be eating more of these things, right? And then just like the bears, like we should have a little bit of more, you should actually be like a little bit more insulin resistant actually this time of year, like right, not really now, but like in the fall time, earlier fall, and you should gain a little weight. And then in the winter time, because you're going to be honoring more darkness, more scarcity, that's when you should lose that weight, right? Because you're tapping into your stored energy, which is your stored fat, while you're doing longer fasting. Like it's just that, and have less carbohydrates. Like that's what normally would happen, like in all of history. But we again don't always tap into that. And then we're not getting that. And then we gain weight in the wintertime instead of lose weight in the wintertime. That's what
How
often
do you
happens.
recommend, I mean, and what do you do to manage the holidays? Because people want to have festivities, they want to stay up and celebrate, they want to eat all the things, right? All the fudge and the da da da. So,
Well, I think that you have to create a balance, right? You don't have to not participate at all and be like, no, I'm not. But again, like think about don't participate in everything, but think about like, okay, I really want to do this one and I'm going to go to that one. I'm going to do that. Like pick and choose. Like, but you get to choose. Like you make your health a priority. Like still manage your light environment, still wear your blue blockers, still go to bed early. Like do the right thing most of the time. And then when you have that little hiccup, it's not going to be as detrimental to your health. And it's not going to cause like a 10-pound weight gain. And it's not going to cause you to go into a tailspin where you're like overindulging every day and you can't stop thinking about, the X, Y, and Z that's in your fridge. Like you'll be better. You'll be more resilient. You'll be better able to handle all these things if you live this lifestyle and you do the right thing most of the time. I guess it also depends on your level of health and is disease level. If you're really, really sick, you might have to be more diligent because you need to make your health more of a priority. But if you're doing relatively well and healthy, you can afford to go off track a little bit and then come back, and that's okay. Like we want to build resilience, like that's the point, but we don't want to be um continuing. I think the problem is that most people continue it. Like Halloween comes and then Thanksgiving comes and like Christmas comes and it's like every weekend is a party and every day is we're eating way way too much carbohydrates that our body just cannot handle. So we can't do it day in and day out, but the little bits here and there I think is okay in
Yeah,
my
and
opinion.
mostly we're referring to simple sugars. So,
Yes.
not necessarily carbs in the form of apples or squash. It's more of just like straight up sugars, right? Cakes, pies, cookies, all of that stuff, white flour can
Yeah.
really do a number on us. So I think the more
Even like abundance of raw honey like this time of year. Yeah, like
sugars. And the more
yeah.
health issues you have, like the more inflammation you have, or if you have autoimmunity, I think in order of operations or prioritizing would be number one, you have to get more rest in the winter because your body needs that time. It's deep restoration and repair. You need to make sure you're blocking all artificial light earlier, a little earlier, right? And maybe I always do it right after sunset. It's like up or on go the orange
Me
lens,
too.
right? And then if I'm for usually I'm not up that late, I'm in bed by 8 or 9. Usually by 9, I have to say. But if I'm going to have to be up later for whatever reason, which is rare, I'll put the red ones on. And I'm not driving, of course. So then the other thing would be that you really just want to avoid alcohol. Like I honestly,
Mm,
Vanessa used to be able to have like a half a glass of wine. I mean, this is over the last, whatever, 30 years. Now it's like I feel like absolute shit and it's like not even worth a half a glass. I'm like, why bother, right? Nothing. No alcohol for me. Yes, because number one, it makes my sleep crap. Number two, I literally wake up puffy and feeling stiff and awful. So if you have any like a more health issues, your liver just cannot do it. It cannot process that. It's not worth the toll that it takes on your body. And when I was working in this for the county mental health years ago, God forbid, I don't recommend it, but it was so stressful. But I worked in county mental health. I was working with an older guy who worked in like drug rehab centers, yes, and in
mhm.
clinics and so forth. And he's like, Heather, if if God like invented alcohol right now and there had never been such a thing, it would be illegal because or if man invented it, whatever. It would be illegal because it's that toxic to our systems. And I thought, holy crap, like I didn't even think of it like that. Alcohol is the only drug. I'm sorry, I have to say this, like it sounds extreme, but alcohol is the only drug you'd have to, if you're addicted to it, you have to be medically supervised because you can die from alcohol withdrawal. It's
Wow.
that toxic. So think about it when you're doing your hard cider. Think about it when you're doing your microbrew. Like I'm a foodie, like I love all that stuff, but is it really worth more than just take a few sips of somebody's, right? But don't overdo
Right.
on the alcohol.
I totally agree. Well, alcohol is like one of the biggest electron stealers, right? So it really impairs mitochondria function. And for me, I guess I'm lucky that I'm adverse. Like I'm just like adverse. I don't like it. Like I don't like wine. I don't like beer. I
Wait, you
don't
don't
like
even cook with it? See, I would love to cook like,
that.
come on,
No, I
great
don't like it.
osso.
Like I don't like tiramisu.
How do you
Like I
cook
don't.
an ossobuco? Come on.
I don't I don't cook that. I don't like tiramisu. Like I don't like things with the flavor of alcohol, like at all. Like I don't like it. So for me, it's easy to avoid it.
Okay,
The only way I'll drink alcohol if it's like covered in like the sweetest, fruitiest thing. And then I don't even want that in the wintertime because that sounds gross. Like so because I want to mask the flavor because I've been adverse to alcohol. I
good.
mean, for like 20 years. Like I just don't like it. Like so that's me, not everybody's like that. And I also don't feel good when I would drink it. Like it would definitely cause a lot of reactions. And that comes to like a really solid point is your body creates aversions for a reason. And my body is averse to it because it knows it's not good for its system and it just doesn't want it. Like I always say like listening to your body is super important unless your intuition is really off and you're craving, processed and packaged foods, that's not good. But also listening to your intuition is important and leaning into that is important because sometimes you might go off track a little bit and like because your body's craving something and your body need like maybe your body's craving a little chocolate or something around your cycle, lean into that. I think that's okay. Like don't be like, no, I can't eat it, never. Like And especially women around our cycle, we have to give ourselves a little bit more grace about like maybe you need 3 meals that time of the month, or like maybe you need to like, lean into a little bit more carbohydrates around that time of your cycle. Like that's all really important. So like pay attention to what your body needs, but your body also creates aversions and cravings for a reason. So I think it is important to tune into that, but keep this lens of, what's in season, what's growing, and try to focus on that. But here and there, if you have a craving, I think it's important to, especially if it's a whole real food, to lean into that.
I think
Well,
sometimes it's hard for people with food issues to discern
yes.
between a craving that's a nourishing craving versus a craving that's based on a psychological issue. Okay.
Yes.
Because there's sometimes overlap and it's like, how the hell do you sort that out? I would say, because I have a lot of history of addiction in my family, and then sugar is a big, big drug. So if you
Mm,
have issues getting away from off the sugar train, prioritize protein and complex carbs in the form of squashes and sweet potatoes and so forth first,
yes.
and maybe baked apples, then eat all that. And then if you're still hungry, then okay, now do I really need that piece of pumpkin cheesecake or whatever? May not have any desire left, but you've got to nourish yourself first and address the underlying unprocessed emotional pain, which is driving those types of cravings. So we have cravings that are for there's a literal your body going, hey, I need more of this nutrient versus cravings that are like, I can't, like, I'm too uncomfortable. There's like, I can't be comfortable in my own skin because I haven't faced something. Let's, I don't know if you have comments.
I no, I used to have total food addiction. So yes, I totally understand that and can relate to that. And honestly, the more I've lived a quantum lifestyle, the more I don't have that at all. Like I don't really, and I can lean into my intuition. I can allow it to guide me now, which is beautiful because I'm like, I don't. I don't go overboard. I don't have a binge. You know what I mean? Like that never, that hasn't happened in years. It's like amazing to me. Like that doesn't happen because I just, my body doesn't take it to that level. Like if I need a little bit of something, I allow it and then it goes away. Like I've hit the little craving that I had. My body needed something from that and then I move on. It's like it's
That's
not a yeah, it's very simple. For me, it could be like a little bit of chocolate here and there or like a little bit of something and
mhm.
I move on. So I think it depends on where you're at in your journey, but I think what you said is also really important. But I do think the more that you align yourself to nature, the better your intuition is going to be.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
for postmenopausal women like me, that it's really becomes the carbs become more of an issue, right? And so I think the most important thing is that we really have to reconcile our how to manage our stress like big time because since the ovaries aren't out of operation, then your adrenals have to take up the slack of the sex hormone production. So if you're
Mm,
stressed out and the adrenals are trying to process or make all the stress hormones and your sex hormones, it's really too much on your system. So then
yeah.
what happens is you crave simple carbs, and it's a dangerous thing because a lot of times menopausal women are having a hard time with weight gain. So in the winter it's even harder, right? So you got to prioritize the healthy, like the meat proteins, animal proteins, healthy, just enough healthy
Healthy
fats,
fats.
and don't
Healthy
overdo
fats.
the healthy fats though either, right? Because that's easy to do. And really,
Yeah.
though, you have to rest more and move more. You have to do those two things, and then your food things will calm down a little bit. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
put that because I
Yeah.
think we could literally do a whole episode. I could do a whole episode on that. But I want
Yeah.
to talk a little bit, Vanessa, if it's okay, about digestion. And there's a word for this. Maybe you'll remember what it is. Carrie talks about it. Like there's some response that it's your digestion starts at the thought of food, at
Oh yeah.
the preparation of food. What's it? Encephalic response or cephalic or something like that.
Cephalic. Cephalic. You
That one.
got it.
It
Yes.
means like your body's literally going, oh, food is incoming. Let's prime the system here. So like salivation and this and that and digestive acid starts. So you literally want to think like people like one of the things I'm still working on is hard is like I'm so excited. It's like let's cook the food. I'm hungry and let's eat it fast. It's like that's awful. Like I'm working on enjoying the process of preparing the food calmly, right? Making sure that I've planned enough time ahead of time or in between, sessions or whatever, so that I'm enjoying the process and I'm not rushing because your body then is in a state of stress. It's like what's the threat? I'm in a hurry, like, then you're not going to have enough digestion. Your digestion's not primed with the digestive juices,
And you're
right?
not in the parasympathetic state to actually
So
digest and absorb. Yeah.
want to be in a rest and digest parasympathetic state, which is calm. So focusing on the sensory aspects, the pleasure, the taste and the textures and the smells of the food, right? And really slowing down and enjoying the process and actually sitting down. Like how
Yeah.
many people don't sit down and eat? And then have an actual place setting, because we're just like so fast and go, go, go. And it's so awful for our bodies. Like we have to be able to be in a process of nourishing ourselves. And that I think is a challenge for a lot of people, especially if you have kids and you're just trying to manage all the things. And it's like you can't even enjoy the process of eating.
Oh my God, there's so many things I could say about that, but so important. Like, so the first thing that came to my mind is if you're not cooking your food and you're getting takeout, right? You're not really priming that whole situation, right? For it to happen, like those digestive enzymes and juices and like getting your body ready, because that happens in the process of cooking a lot of times, right? So I mean, that's something to think about. But then also, it's like a lot of us are eating on the go, running from here to there, like especially busy moms. I can relate. I've been there. And even when busy moms try to sit down and eat a meal with their family, like I need this, I need that, but can you give me that? Like I've experienced that. And sometimes I choose to eat without my family. Ooh, I said it because you know why? Because honestly, sometimes it's better for me to like just have like a meal by myself, nice and quiet. You like is enjoyable. Like I like that. Like because nobody's bugging me. Nobody's needs a water or a fork or I need more cheese or blah, 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 blah. Like I enjoy that. And it's really nice. And I'll go take my food and I'll sit outside, put my feet in the grass and just be like enjoying and presence and just like loving that. Like I like all that.
That's so beautiful
Also,
for you.
chew your food is like really really important. That's another huge tip. Chew is like so important for digestion, and a lot of us are eating really quickly. That's a problem, like that, like, and I have to be mindful of it. Like I'm guilty of it. I am like that's, but when I take my food outside and I put my feet in the grass and I'm in nature, I'm much more present and much more slow, and I chew my food more thoroughly. So I always say to clients, what you eat is important, but also how you eat,
When
when you eat, right? All of these other things make a difference. Is it seasonal? Is it local? Like it's not just about what you're eating. It's so much more than that. And I also think it's like, don't eat foods that you hate. Like if you're like, if I'm like, oh, eat eggs, you're like, ugh, eggs sound so gross. Or like, you should eat wild caught salmon because it has DHA. And you're like, ugh, that sounds gross. Like, don't eat it because like that's like again, your body creates that aversion for a reason. Like, and then you're not going to enjoy it. Like, food should be pleasurable. Like you said before, it should be a pleasurable experience. It should be like, oh, I'm loving every minute and every bite. And it should taste freaking good. Like, don't eat food that you don't doesn't taste good. Like, it should be a joyful thing that you do every day. And yeah,
I
I love food. Like, I'm totally with you on that. Like, I love food so much. But yeah, slow down, enjoy your food, stay
yeah,
away from your kids if you have to.
I love that. If you have issues with, I've had lifelong digestive issues, so it's much better now that I've been practicing circadian biology for almost 8 years now.
That's
But
so amazing. You're awesome, by the way. Just like, can we just applaud you and how proud you should be of that? Because it's not like, man, like I sometimes I don't think that we realize like how awesome we are doing, and that is a huge feat. So bravo.
oh my gosh, my histamine issues are way better. Like I used to be so, I mean, it was horrible, miserable. Couldn't even sleep hardly. So, and then, the food, I would just be eating barely anything like beef. It was awful. So now, I mean, it's much better. I still, because but I'm eating a lot more range of things and I'm older.
Yeah.
As we get older, our digestive acid isn't as good, the secretions. So, especially if you've had lifelong digestive issues. And so I do recommend Swedish bitters if you have any gas or bloating. It's just herbal blend of bitter, things. Some of them are really bitter, and I'm like, ugh. But it's like if you take that at 5 to 10 minutes before your meal, it helps prime the pump, get those digestive acids going. Because a lot of people think that they have too much digestive acid if they're having acid reflux. It's actually because you don't have enough.
Yes. And then you're not absorbing or digesting your nutrients because your stomach needs to be super acidic. you're not actually absorbing that protein. I remember when I was taking bitters, I did take bitters for a long time. I don't do it now. Apple cider vinegar, some people work with well too, if that works. No, you don't think so? It doesn't work
Well,
for
I
you?
have, well, because it's way too high in histamine for me.
Oh, so yeah, may not work. It depends on the person. But I remember one time I was taking bitters for like a really, really long time. This is like years ago. And then like I had gone on a trip and I had forgotten them and I ate a steak and I had like the worst stomach pain ever because my body was like, I guess that's the thing about it that I was going to ask you. Do you think that sometimes when you're taking a supplement like that or something that your body stops making the necessary enzymes? Because then I like needed it. It was like almost like my body relying on it. So I guess it depends. Like now I'm fine, but I'm like, I wondered that. I was like, is my body relying on this? And now that I don't have it, now I'm feeling awful. It was weird.
Well, I
Oh,
think it's more like I consider herbs to be more like a food in that
mm,
sense, where
yeah.
the bitterness is what the actual catalyst is. So I don't know. I think that those,
Maybe I just needed it at that time
yeah.
still.
Obviously, the ideal is to be able to not have to use any kind of aid, but I think it's the least, like it's not that
Oh yeah, I think it's fine. No,
very
totally.
mild and benign.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I've
Absolutely.
had
I
to
just, it
do
made me
that.
think of that. It was like, oh, wait, is that what happened? Like, so I'm just was curious your thoughts, but yeah, no, I think it's mild and totally fine to use. Like, go for it. Definitely helps aid in digestion. And especially if you haven't been used to eating a lot of protein, because that's, you need a lot of acidity to digest that, right? So like if you're not used to eating that I'll say this now too. Like we want to be eating like bioavailable protein, like protein that we can use and absorb. And that's like from real animals, right? Not protein powders or, things like that, right? That's not it. That's not where the money is, right? And the more proteins and fats you eat, the more you're going to be able to be satiated and full and go longer between meals, like we were saying before. But I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, definitely want to eat like real protein sources, not protein powders.
Yeah. Well, this has been delightful. Is there anything we missed, do you think, as far as the last tips and so forth?
I don't know. I think we did a pretty extensive job.
Mhm.
I think they can learn more if they go and grab my Ancestrally and Seasonally Nourished recipe ebook and webinar. Like I said, it comes with a 2-hour webinar. It's something that you can use literally for life. It's yours for life. You can watch it as many times as you want. You have the recipes. I'll keep adding to it. Over 100 recipes, like I said before. And they're all whole food recipes. There's no junk and fillers, and it's all real food from nature, everything. And you can learn to make a lot of things on your own, like seasonings and dressings and barbecue sauces and mayos. And because these things are not, unfortunately, you buy them at the food store, they're not going to be that great. And maybe it takes a little bit more time and effort, but it's worth it for your health and your family's health. Like I think, and I think it's really fun, like to get into cooking if you're not into cooking. And not that I think that if you don't cook, it's a block to healing, but I kind of do because if you're buying all your food like at restaurants or, you're going to be eating a lot of junk. And if you're not really making your own food, it's going to be hard to heal. So like learning how to cook is important. And like I get my kids involved and they help me cook and they know how to make a lot of things like for kids, which is really great, and I
That's
want
like a
them.
lifelong skill that you're empowering them with that is so profound because I
Yeah.
remember when I used to work in the public school system, kids did not know what a parsnip or rutabaga was. Like they never heard of any of these things. Even some of the more common vegetables, and I thought, holy cow, this is not good. Or they don't know where their food comes from. So we have a lot of work to do to have more of a decentralized food system and get away from this horrific monocropping and industrial food system. So there's definitely a spiritual and political and societal healing aspect to the information we presented to you today, everybody. It's not, I mean, it's about your own individual healing journey, but in a quantum sense, it's also about the collective healing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Remember that food is medicine and you're literally voting with your dollars. Speaking of voting, oh my God, we want to locally and then support the local food watershed or whatever it's called food shed, I don't know. And so that we are strengthening our local communities and farmers because they're literally becoming extinct. We really want
Yes.
to support that so that we continue to be sustained and nourished with the best quality food and not have to worry about it. Because honestly, sometimes, Vanessa, I do feel like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Or am I still going to be able to buy high quality food, 10 or 20 years from now? Or is it just going to only be the stuff from the massive,
Oh,
right? What do we call it? There's a word for that when the animals are in those huge
oh,
contained.
feedlots, CAFOs.
Yeah, that's it's just awful. Ugh.
Oh, we need to support local farmers and regenerative farmers big time. And that's another reason why I buy from the farms. I don't buy, I mean, of course I have to go to the food store sometimes. Like that's just the nature of it. I have three boys. They eat a lot of food, you know, like so I have to do that. Like I can't buy everything from the local farm, but I get a lot. Like I'm doing a lot. Like we're getting a lot of food from there. I'm going to pick up an order in just a little while. I pick it up every Friday between 3 and 3:30. And I love it. Like I love the little, like, the nice Amish woman who gives me my food. She knows me by name. It's just it's a nice connection. And
Ugh.
it's even better if you can go to the actual farm. Like I'm not that lucky to have any good local farms. And I mean, it's still local, but it's not as local as I would love to be able to just be there in 10 minutes. But yeah, I think we need to support these local regenerative farmers who are doing it right because our food system is literally a disaster in the people like from the food store. Like I'm just gonna say it. Like
Oh, it is.
it's
It's
scary. It's
very toxic. All the
really
dyes.
toxic. Oh
I mean,
my God. Yeah.
talk about all that because
I
we're
know.
trying to steer you in away from all that. But yeah, the dyes and the gums and the stabilizers and the thickeners and there's just a lot. Anyways, artificial flavors. So we're helping you guys to find the way to a quantum-based right nutrition. And the lovely ritual that Vanessa just mentioned of picking up her food, develop rituals, you guys, that you can count on and look forward to that are uplifting and enlightening for you. And then, family based or whatever it is, friendsgiving, I don't know, do all the things. Also,
Friendsgiving. I like that.
yeah, I did one of those a while back and it was lovely.
And
So
also, I wanted to just think, like, it came into my brain too. Like, think about the nutrition content and the exclusion zone water content in an apple that's shipped all the way from, like, say, Washington or like from the other side of the world, right, to one that's local to your environment. It's gonna have a lot more nutrition for your body, also. Like, it actually makes a difference, like a huge difference.
yep,
So,
absolutely. So I want to just invite you all who've listened to this. If you have questions or anything that you want clarity on, shoot us an email, send us a message. There's a link to do that in the show notes, I believe, or just find our emails in the show notes and then reach out to us and we can do a follow-up someday that to answer, whatever your questions are, like a nutrition Q&A perhaps. And then also whenever you have the time, you guys, please, please, please go and leave us up to a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. Take a visit to us on our YouTube channels. Mine is an Enlightened Mood, and Vanessa's is Bright Light Wellness. Yes.
mhm.
Okay, Bright Light Wellness. There's no coach on the end of that. And then
Yeah, sorry, that domain was taken.
worries, worries. And then go to our channels and catch the videos there and reach out to us. Right? We're
Yeah.
here to serve and help people find deeper levels of health and basically really empower yourself to enjoy life. That's the whole point. Enjoy is the highest frequency, love is the highest frequency. And so we want to think about that as far as how we are, what we're consuming. Are you consuming anything you're consuming, not just food, but anything? Is it really helping you to feel better or is it helping, like, is it making you stressed out? So remember all the things you're taking in general.
Yes, you are what you consume. I keep saying that, especially this time of the year with people. You are what you consume. So I think about that. What do you want to consume? What do you not want to consume? Is really, really a important value in your life. And yeah, appreciate that, guys. And yeah, comment on the YouTube channels, like ask us questions. I love the idea of a nutrition Q&A. We might have to do that. Let us know if you want us to do that, because I think that would be so, so fun. And yeah, and if you feel so inclined to check out my ancestrally and seasonally nourished recipe ebook, again, like I said, just make it simple. Like this makes, like when I learned about ancestral and seasonal and local eating, I was like, oh, well, that just makes sense. Like, how come nobody ever mentioned that to me before? I was like, hello. Like, it just like makes so much sense. So if you resonate with that, if it makes sense to you and you want to learn more, go ahead and check it out. And yeah, and I hope you guys enjoy the recipes. Please, I would love feedback on that as well, too. I also have my winter webinar out right now, too, that you can like learn how to thrive in winter, which teaches you about the nutrition of winter, not really of all the seasons, but it definitely teaches you a big part about the nutrition of winter and what we should be eating through winter. So I hope that they're supportive to you guys. And that's my whole goal, is really just to help people reach more people with these webinars, really, and these ebooks. That's really the goal. So yeah,
Yes.
this was a lot of fun.
Yes. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.